and hit the music. Hey, ladies and savages, it is a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning. Well, depending on where you are. For those of us in San Bernardino, it's a San Bernardino beautiful, so it's an okay day. But it's gloomy, so that's great. We've needed this. And since it is Monday, you know what that means. It is time for another episode of Savages Unscripted. Today we are actually understaffed. 50% of us decided to show up to work today. Yeah, Al isn't here. He's actually out of the country. So he said it was a vacation, but to me that sounds like this is my podcast now. So Savages Unscripted with Hector. I like that ring to it. I don't know. But I hope you're all having a great Monday. I know Mondays tend to be very interesting and very arduous days. It's the coming of the new week, and at times, mostly, this is when we all go back to work. So wherever that may be. And I specifically remember when I worked back at Amazon, I think Sunday nights were the worst because that's when I knew, like, okay, the next day, back to the grind. I think if you really like your job, it probably won't be as bad. You might look forward to it. But you know what? I think that we can define our Mondays. I think that at times Mondays might be tough. They might be very tiring, but it's another day. And you know what? It is another day to listen to Savages Unscripted. So actually right now, if you guys can please tweet this, share us, talk about us, baby mamas, your friends, mistress, anybody, please share us, Savages Unscripted. We are willing to talk about anything. I shared a clip recently, and somebody really liked what we said. We were talking about our thoughts and our opinions on the whole idea that video games are inciting gun violence. And a friend of mine told me that, you guys are spinning some humor on this, on some things that are very tough to say. And really just what I told him was, these are things that a lot of people are thinking. We have the guts to talk about it out loud. And when we add our humor, I don't think we're making fun of these things. We're not making fun of the people involved. We're just trying to, make it a little more entertaining. But back on that, we really don't think that video games incite any sort of gun violence. And I think that's the beauty of this podcast, Savages Unscripted. When Al and I really talked about it, when we first made the podcast, we just had so many ideas. We had talked about before, politics, business, and just philosophical stuff. At times we would talk about like relationships and stuff. So what's funny about Al and I, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of people, but I've heard girls say like, oh, guys, all they talk about is cars or, I don't know, their haircuts or their shoes. But when we talk, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of people, we talk about anything, relationships. We might not even be in a relationship, but we might talk about our ideas in a relationship. And we might talk about, why did in our past relationships really flourish? What could we have done differently? We talk about philosophical things in history. There's times where we have talked about the Holocaust and just many various things. So when we made this podcast, we said, why not? This whole podcast thing, this podcast culture, it's becoming bigger, and we have the resources, we have the tools. Why don't we just do it? And I think that's something that I think many people tend to think. They tend to think, I want to do this. I want to put out YouTube videos. I want to write music. I want to just write, whether it be blogging or anything. And I think at times we might think of those people that are doing it, the people that are very successful. And I think at times we see success as this very unattainable, this unrealistic thing. In terms of the monetary gains, But when we did Savages Unscripted, we're like, you know what, screw it. We might not be super popular or loved. We might not even make money off of this, but we love it. And I think that's what you have to do. Life is too short to, down the line, just end up with what ifs. Yeah, so we came up with the Savages Unscripted. So I just went on some weird tangents. I don't know. But let's go down to this. So Spider-Man is back in the MCU. I'm sure you guys have noticed this. This was announced just a few days ago. So we talked about it actually a few episodes ago, where we said that Spider-Man was taken out of the MCU, that Sony and Disney couldn't go further with another deal because he was in a 5-film deal and those 5 films were over. So just to recap, Sony owns the film rights for Spider-Man. So what that means is that, yes, he is a Marvel character. He is in the Marvel comics, but the licensing, that's on Sony. And they had made this deal with Disney where it was more of a partnership where Disney and Sony were able to do 5 films together. And Spider-Man could be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And well, after those 5 films, that broke apart. There was a bunch of rumors of bad blood and this wasn't going to happen. And Sony wanted to plug him out. And you know what? I think it was easy to point fingers at Sony. That's something that we talked about. They have this failing universe that doesn't seem to have much hope. And then when you compare it to Disney and Marvel and just what they built, to me, I think one of the biggest successes is Thor, because I think that's a character that in the beginning I just didn't care for. I know a lot of people specifically that are DC fanboys, and they tell me like, oh, you like the Avengers, like you must hate DC, you must hate Batman, and you're a Thor lover. Those weren't exact words, of course, but I actually never really liked Captain America or Iron Man or Thor. All those, those Avengers from the first Avengers movie, I didn't really like them. I wasn't really a big fan. I don't think I really got into the MCU until after the first Avengers movie. The first 5 or 6 films, I didn't even see them in theater. I saw them way down the line. But anyway, just years later, I think when we got to Thor Ragnarok is when I realized, damn, Thor is badass now. And just the idea of this character that I did not care about. And now I want to watch this movie again. And I watched Thor Ragnarok in theater about 4 times. So to me, I think that's a huge evolution in the character. And the thing about Thor is I think he was underutilized in the beginning. And then he just became really badass. And there was just that whole idea of he didn't really need, his hammer. Mjolnir, I think that's how you pronounce it. People are going to say, oh, but you're an English major. You got to know how to pronounce that. It's not an English word, you guys. That's just a funny little rant. I majored in English, so people tend to think that I know every word, like I'm a living dictionary in the flesh, and I know every single word. I know where every comma goes, but that is not the case, you guys. I am imperfect. I am not the best English major. I was barely an English major, actually. I wasn't the best student in college. But yeah, anyways, Spider-Man's back. I believe it is just a 2-movie deal this time. So before it was a 5-film partnership and now it's just 2. There's rumors that it'll be a single or a solo film because we saw the way that the Spider-Man Far From Home finished. And now, there's the solo film and also the not really partnership film, but there's rumors that he's going to be put into another movie of another Marvel character, or maybe another Avengers movie. You never know. And again, Sony, I've talked about this. I went public on this. I have a Spider-Man costume. I'm local. I'm in San Bernardino. If you hire me, you'll be helping your own universe and you'll be helping me. Put me in the Sony universe. I don't care. I got this. I'll carry Venom and all those other characters that are destined to fail. I mean, really, a lot of the stuff that they're announcing, there's just a bunch of side characters and villains from the Spider-Man comics, but they're announcing solo films for them, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't want to beat this dead horse too much. let's go on to another topic. Recently, what's been plaguing the news, and I think everybody knows this, it has become a meme. We've seen videos, we've seen highlights. There might be ads on this already, but Greta Thunberg, she's a Swedish climate change activist. She's 16 years old. And actually, I don't think I found out about this as it was happening. It might have been like days after. But I know she basically just told off everybody that has been doubting climate change. I know the quote that put her on the map, the quote that we've been seeing everywhere is, "I shouldn't be standing here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope? How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words." I know there's been a bunch of backlash, specifically from, right wing and those very extreme conservatives that just say climate change is a hoax and it is a fairy tale and this and that. And there's just a bunch of talk and chatter now saying that basically this whole thing is a setup and she's a paid actress and all this stuff, pathos, they're just using her to really incite this emotion in us. This little girl, that is threatened and her future and her life will be cut short. And so will the rest of our children's future. But honestly, if you don't believe in climate change, you guys, I really don't know what to say. I made many jokes about flat earthers a while ago, but I don't think I've really met any. So it might not be it is a big issue. If you're a flat earther, you believe the earth is flat. We'll have an episode about you guys where we roast you guys. Maybe if I threw a ball at you, you might learn a little bit about spheres. We'll find out. But anyways, if you guys don't believe in climate change, you guys are a problem. I'm just gonna say that out there. I don't mean to sound too like I'm pointing fingers, but it is true. We are here. This is all of our home. We all live here and we should all be taking care of this. I recently moved into an apartment with some friends, and on a smaller scope, on a smaller level, like this is our world, this apartment. And if one person isn't taking care of it, or they don't believe they don't believe that cleaning is important to the whole, then that damages the dynamic. That damages just what the apartment is, I think. But yeah, anyways, climate change, it is a real thing. And I think the most absurd thing is people that are really attacking this Greta Thunberg. And they're saying like, well, why is this child going up here? She should be in school. All I have to say to that is there's a younger person who actually cares. And you're concerned with why isn't she in school? Come on. There was a video that was produced. I believe it was by a comedian, and it's a satirical video called Helpline. There it is. It's called the Greta Thunberg Helpline. And essentially, it's just this satirical video where people are calling this hotline, and they're telling them like, hey, I'm unhappy about this. There's this little girl, and she's making me realize I'm a shitty person. And the hotline is just really just dropping them some knowledge and some facts. There's a quote here, and somebody said in the video, I get irrationally angry at a Swedish girl who wants to save the planet. There's a joke in the video where they say, if you're a grown adult who needs to yell at a child for some reason, the Greta Thunberg Helpline is here to tolerate you. And I just think it's really funny. Yeah, climate change is real, you guys. Take it seriously. At the very least, if you don't believe in it, educate yourself. Because if you have a child, your child will inherit this earth. They will be here. You probably won't be around. You probably have a shitty diet, but your kid's going to be here. And I think it is just utterly sad that you might think that we don't have an effect on the well-being of our world. I don't want to get too much into this. Yeah, so I mentioned that I recently moved into an apartment. I have known these friends for years, and just a year ago, they had asked me to live with them, and I was down. I was like, you know what? I love you guys. I've known you guys for years. We complement each other. We're just completely different people, but we've always gone along well together. And there's just some times where you have to accept reality. There might be some things in life that you want, But just because you want something doesn't mean it should be happening. There's a difference between wants and need. But anyway, around the time when just right after, when I told them that I want to live with them about a year ago, I realized that the job I had was giving me less and less hours. And my main concern was, well, if they're giving me less hours, and I already talked to my manager, there is no guarantee that I will be working more or even that I'll be getting another job. So the fact that I'm in this uncertain position, to me, I felt that was unfair to my roommates. So I told them, you know what? I won't be living with you guys. So years passed. They had found somebody else, and now that somebody else left, and now I finally moved in. My roommates finally got me. My friends finally got me. So I've transitioned here. I finally left home. I'm not saying that if you're in your mid-20s, you have to leave home. But for me, I lived off campus for so long. I lived on campus for so long. I lived away from home, and I just spent more and more time on my own. I spent more and more time worrying about myself, gaining my independence, and just living my own life. And that's how I met more and more people. That's how I got more jobs. And that's just how I flourished. So when I went home, I just felt very cramped. I felt very boxed in. And I felt like I had to get out of there if I wanted to grow. I think our lives are like this long book. And, the different stages in our lives are different chapters. But I think sometimes you have to be willing to close that chapter and start the next one. And I think I knew immediately that I had to start a new one. But again, if you're in your mid-20s and you're living with your parents, that does not mean that you have to think of yourself as, well, I'm not doing anything with my life. I got to get out of here. No, that was my life. Your situation might be different. And I don't know, maybe you'll be happier with yourself. So yeah, I am in this apartment now. I am teaching kids. That's a fun deal. Again, like I had said, Mondays are tough. For me, Mondays are minimum days, and usually that should mean, minimum day, I go home early. Not for me. I am in an after-school program, so that means the kids get out earlier and they have more time after school, so that's more time with me. And if you just really think of that logic, these kids are in school the whole day. They don't want to be in school anymore. So when I'm there and they see me, they're just like, I want to go home. I want to eat. I want to sleep. I want to play Fortnite. Those seem to be the only three things that matter to kids nowadays. It's tough. There are days where I feel my patience is being pushed and I feel like I'm losing it. But, I think if you like something, you should stay in there. You never know. The next day might be better. And I think it is easier to be a negative person. I think many people might feel like optimism is this tough thing, like it's impossible. Like, I once had somebody tell me after I told them, to be optimistic. And they said, well, if I'm optimistic and things don't go that way, then I'm just going to be disappointed. So if anything, me being negative is realistic. But that's just more unnecessary stress. What if things do go well and you were just negative that whole time? You were negative for hours. That just sounds uncomfortable, and that just sounds just like a bad time. So this episode will be a little shorter than usual, as you guys can imagine. Being understaffed isn't fun. I'm just trying to hold down the fort right now. So I will spend this time just by saying, really, guys, if you have any topic ideas, please, you guys know the Instagram. We are savages.unscripted. We have an email, savagesunscripted@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, savagesunscripted. Please look us up. I think it's the Twitter handle. I'm still unsure about the Twitter literacy, but I believe it's the Twitter handle. I believe that's what it's called. It's @savagesunscript. For some reason, it doesn't fit the whole word, so it sounds weird. So when we made that, it was well, if something's being cut off, what will be cut off? And I think that is just very inconvenient. Come on, Twitter, give us a couple more characters on this. But yeah, you guys, if you guys want us to talk about relationships, or maybe there's some sort of philosophical ideas out there, maybe even some history stuff you want to hear our input on stuff. Do you want to hear me roast Al? I am more than willing to do that. I could do a whole 5, 6, 10 episodes on it. I do it all the time for fun, and if you guys want to hear that, I'd be glad to do it. But really, when we did the Savages Unscripted, we really wanted it to be a community. We want people to be included. I think at times when you see of vlogs or podcasts, it's just really, you're the listener and the viewer, you're just an audience. But what if we were more than that? What if we were listening to our favorite podcast and we were this participant? I think that'd be a great thing. And we both agreed, you know what, let's constantly take topic requests. So if you guys give us some, we'll talk about it. We recently talked about those people that don't go to college, different options for you guys. Do you guys even have to go to college? That was a topic that a friend of mine, my good friend Sammy, that I met back in 6th grade, he actually recommended it, and we're like, let's talk about this. We were talking about college so much. That's because that's something we were comfortable with. We both lived the college experience. It's easy for us. So we didn't necessarily dislike the idea of not going to college. And the reason we went through with that topic suggestion, is because it was something different. We like learning new stuff. So if you guys don't give us topic ideas, we're going to keep rambling on random shit you guys didn't ask for. The news thing, that's something we really like enjoying too. That kind of pushes us to become really just aware in what's going on in the world. The Amazon fires and all that stuff. I think at times, especially our generation, we tend to read headlines. And I think that's a result of Facebook. And there's just so much content we want to see. So much YouTube, Netflix, Amazon. There's just so much, this proliferation of content out there. So when you see an article, I think it's easier to just read the headline and be like, okay, this is happening. Walmart man killed other man with shopping cart. That didn't actually happen. I just made that up. But that's my point. We read headlines and we're like, okay, well, this happened. This is happening. But we want to talk about this stuff. We understand that people, maybe the language that's used in articles or in the news, maybe it's just a little dull. And maybe you guys want to hear 2 people that you guys know, or 2 people that you guys can identify with. Maybe you want to hear us talk about it. And that's another thing too. We understand that biases make things tough. I'm pointing at you, Fox News. And I'm not saying CNN is innocent either. And I think that's what pushes people a lot. Well, which news is good? Which news is bad? Which is lying to me? I've taken some journalism classes. There's this thing called framing. And a lot of these news places, they don't necessarily lie. They shouldn't be lying. But they shoot things from a certain perspective. So maybe a certain angle on guns, on the NRA. Maybe the left might be talking about the violence and how these children are being murdered and stuff. And maybe the right might just be talking about, well, this is our right. I don't know, bad example. But my point is, it's tough to avoid these biases. And when Al and I read these news and stuff, we want facts. We want to share with you guys, okay, this is happening. Maybe at the end we'll talk about how does it make us feel? What does this mean? But we're always going to share the news articles. So if you guys, I believe Spotify shows the description. So those on YouTube, it'll show a little link. You can click on it. You can always see what we're talking about. We're citing here, you guys. This is what we learn in college. We're not going to talk about something and just not share a link. We recently talked about what Pornhub was doing in the episode Pornhub Cleans Up. But we made a comment about we're not gonna plug the video. You know what? Maybe we should. Maybe I should just go back, edit it, and put it in there. But that's my point. Whatever we talk about, there will be whatever article, video, it will be in there, because we don't want you guys to think, oh, these guys are full of shit. Why should we believe these guys? And a while ago, I think I talked about a website that I had made for a class. I made a website where Shia LaBeouf was the mascot. That's in the description as well. If you guys want to see that, Just disclaimer, I had just learned about websites. I made it like the night before because, I'm a college student. I was a college student. So I think that's kind of, that's just part of college, doing it the night before. It's just what you do. Verb, it's what you do. I'm not sure if you guys understand that reference. I think it was Nickelodeon that did that back in the day. They would show commercials of kids jumping and, jump roping, running, I don't know, running from a dog. Just random stuff, playing basketball, and they would always say verb. It's what you do. I really like that. I think they really pushed us to go outside and play. I'm not necessarily saying I did it. I probably stood inside and played video games. But don't worry, they didn't incite any violence in me. Those of you that know me, am I a soft person? I don't think I'm a very violent person. I don't think you guys probably would have ever seen me angry. I really don't think that video games incite any sort of violence. And now we're in a tangent. We're back to this violence in video games. I grew up playing Pokemon. That was my favorite game. So while most people preferred Call of Duty, and just all that other stuff, I just always preferred Pokemon. And I remember at some point I might have been a little self-conscious at some point, but after a while I stopped caring. And I'm not gathering animals and making them fight. I just don't think video games directly inspire you to do something. We've said it before, we're being exposed to certain things, but aren't we all? Aren't we always being exposed to stuff? Can we honestly say that the stuff we see on TV or the music we listen to is 100% clean? No, we can't. And that's okay. I think we're all rational human beings, mostly. We have common sense and we understand, this is bad, this is good. I can do this, I shouldn't do this. I had one of my kids at school. I don't know why you do this, but so we do rotations, and I had kinder first and second. We're a little understaffed, so we put those three together. My boss thinks it's a little easier. I'm unsure about that, but there's this first grader, and we have some problems with him. He tends to just be a little not different. He does some weird stuff. And we were in line, and there was this girl in front of him, and the kids were saying that he was playing with her hair, and I was like, okay, don't do that. And then he tried eating her hair. He had his hands in her hair, and he was putting it in her mouth. And she looked at me like, do you see this? And what do you do in a situation like that? But my reason for bringing this up is, like, why do we do things we do? I don't know. We're weird as human beings. Something I like to always think to myself is, I have this favorite quote. It's from a favorite song of mine. The band is Neutral Milk Hotel. And the quote goes, how strange it is to be anything at all. And to me, this is just this beautiful quote because I think it just really expresses the fact that life is just so unpredictable and the world is so big. I mean, have you guys ever just really thought of the fact that you have 2 legs, you have 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 arms? Like, just the fact that each of the things you have a specific purpose, to me, that's bizarre already. That's crazy. And then you could think into more, grander terms, more, I like to think, something I like to do is I like to look at the sky and just really realize, like, the city I'm in, it's big. Then you think of, you expand a little bit, the county, the state, the country, like, we're in this huge world, and we all know, the earth isn't the biggest planet. And then, you go even further, the universe, and there's just so much out there, and just how strange it is to be anything at all. I'm on these weird tangents. I really think, I know in my last 2 years of college, I had trouble focusing, and now I'm on another tangent. But yeah, again, this is just a short episode. This is just in the mind of Hector, where I talk about random stuff. I hope you're all having a good time, a good day, a great day, and a great week. We have people who have been listening to the podcast. We have people who have been giving us input and insight, and they've been telling us, hey, we like this, we liked what you talked about this, did you consider this, can you talk about this? And when we first made this, we we weren't sure who was going to listen, how many people were going to listen. We had joked about just our moms listening to this podcast. I think even my mom would listen to it, honestly. We don't have thousands of followers, but we do have a few loyal ones. And that, to me, that's amazing. We're never going to forget that. When we made the Twitter, I had a friend the friend sent me that I had mentioned earlier, he actually followed it and he commented and he said something like, "Oh, don't forget me when you guys become big," or something like that. I was your first follower. And, we're not going to forget that. We're not going to forget you, Sammy. We're not going to forget each of you, the 10 first followers, the first 20 that really started helping us out. You guys were a big part of us. As I said, we want this to be a community. Right now, things are a little weird. Like I said, we made an episode or two. We hit a roadblock and we had to submit older episodes. Al went on vacation. So, fun fact, actually, Al went to China, came back for 3 days, and then now he left to Europe. Life is unpredictable. And I think if you want to do anything, if there's something you want to do, you want to set your mind to it, you should just do it. I think Shia LaBeouf said it best. Just do it. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. And Savages Unscripted is something that we talked about. We eventually set plans, we set goals, and it just became something that just happened. We're at a point right now. I joked around with a friend last night and I told her, you know what, we're at a point where we have to go through with this. If we stop, it's just not the same. You need that consistency. It's like those people that go to the gym and they're going hard at it for a week. You're going hard at it. Then you miss a day and you miss another day. And, I understand that life happens, but consistency is what's important. If you want something in your life, you're going to fight for it. I hear a lot of people saying, I'm going to look for time. But I think you need to make time if you really want something. When I said this 3 times today, but when Al and I made this podcast, the first thing we did was we decided, you have these skills, I have these skills. Let's just do it. Those of you guys that are interested in a podcast, you guys want to make your own podcast, your own vlog, you guys want to, make a movie, you guys want to write music, you guys want to be dancers, you guys want to write a book, you guys want to be lawyers, you guys want to be doctors. I don't know, you might want to be a stripper. It's an art, I think, but just do it. I think people are always going to tell you that it's not very realistic, and people are always going to say, why don't you do this instead? But it's up to you. For the longest time, I wanted to be a nurse, but it really wasn't actually me that wanted to be a nurse. My parents put that idea into my head. In the medical field, you got to do this. And I was doing that. But one day I decided and I realized I love writing essays. I don't think anyone's ever uttered those words, but I did. I liked English. I love reading books. I actually like grammar. And if you're passionate about something, you just do it. I think I talked about in a recent episode that, there was a point where teachers are being laid off. Teachers are losing their jobs. They don't even get paid that great, but it's what I wanted to do. And when the pay wasn't great and when people were losing their jobs and I still wanted to do it, to me, that just showed this is my passion. This is what I want to do. Again, if you guys want to do something, really just do it. I have a friend right now and he is in Sacramento, UC Davis. He is off in medical school. One of my best friends. And you know what? I'm sure when we were in high school, the thought of becoming a doctor might have sounded nice, but it probably, at some point, he probably thought it was impossible. But now he's in med school. It's gone to a point where I don't know how long he's been there already, but he's there and he's happy and he's doing what he's doing. And I think that's what we need to do. Just go through the process. And we need to consider that too. Everything is a process. Everything has a process. You're not just going to one day make a YouTube video and get 1,000 likes. Just like us when we made this podcast, I think our first day we had 5 views on YouTube. And, now we're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcast. We're now basically plugging our own podcast. But recently we got onto Apple Music. That was a big one. We don't use Apple, but a lot of people use that. So it's a process, you guys. And just think of what you want to do right now. Close your eyes. You want to be a doctor? You want to do a podcast? You want to write a book? You want to be a stripper? anything. But my point is, just think about it right now. You can do it. The one setting the limits, the one that says you can't do it, that's you. The one who's in a fight for it is you. Those goals are for you. So just do it. Again, Savages Unscripted. I know it's weird only hearing me, though. Come on, do you want to hear the other guy? What's his name again? No, but really, thank all you guys. I just want to thank you guys on Al's behalf as well. We want to thank all of you guys that have listened each time, and those of you guys that have given us feedback, and those of you that have shared us. We really appreciate it. We have huge ideas. We really do. But we're waiting for Al to come back. I'm still settling into my new apartment. And one step at a time, people. One step at a time. Without further ado, though, this is another episode of Savages Unscripted. And I really hope you guys have a beautiful day.